Yes, welcome back to the coding and the problem solving pulse. So my name is Abdullah Abdul Hakim, your guide for mastering algorithm and system design. Today we focus on building strong problem solving skills that are essential for software engineers. We will explore a classic matrix problems that challenge your understanding of arrays and in-place algorithm. And I will walk you through the problem with clear explanation and real world examples, and together we will break down the solution step by step and to ensure deep understanding. So whether you are beginner or an expert, this episode will help you level up your coding skills. Okay, this is our problem today. This is set matrix zeros. So let's move now to read the problem. Yeah, this is our problem. The matrix zeros given an m by n integer matrix. This called matrix. If an element is zero, set its entire row and the columns to zeros, and you must do it in place. Okay, like first examples. Yeah, this is our matrix and we have just here zero, so I will make all the row and the columns with zeros. Okay, and so the output will be this matrix. Okay, and if we have two zeros like these examples, I will already, yeah, make all of the columns and rows, yeah, with zeros. Okay, so I will make this first row and first column as zero. So and this zero, another one zero here, we will make this column, this row and this column also zero. Okay, and we have some constraints. Matrix dot length equal m, and the n, it is a matrix of 0 dot length, and so on. So and m and n within the range from 1 to 100. Okay, so this is just some hints if we need any one of them. So let's starting with our structure approach to apply it on the problem. Okay, yeah, first thing I want to follow the structure, this structure approach. Yeah, I advise you to starting with understanding the problem at the beginning. This is understanding understanding the problem. So this is first step. So let me restate the problems to ensure we are on the same page. And the problem is called set matrix zeros, and you are given 2D matrix, a grid of numbers. So if any cells in the matrix is zero, you must set its entire row and the column to zero. And yeah, our objective here to modify the matrix in place uh, so that if any element is zero, the whole row and the columns become zero. Okay, this is the first thing you need to do during the interview. And second, you can ask some clarifying question or walk through on these examples to ensure you are understanding well. Okay, so yeah, I think we move on the examples, so we'll skip it. So we will skip to ask some smart questions. Okay, so you need to ask the interviewer, yes, some questions to get all the requirements. First question, for examples, you can ask about the constraints, the input, output, and so on. So you can ask, for examples, are we allowed to use extra space or must the solution in place? As you mentioned here, it is you must do it in place. And another question you can ask, can the matrix be empty or have only one row or columns and so on. This is maybe some question, and maybe you need to ask for the return value. You can ask, should we return the modified matrix or just modify it in place, and so on. After you ask some questions, you can already state your assumptions. Okay, you can make your assumptions, as you know. Mm, yeah, you can already set your assumptions. Okay, assumptions here is the matrix maybe can be empty or have only one rows or columns, and or all elements are integers and so on. After that, you need to handle the edge cases. Okay, so the edge cases like empty matrix, maybe we have empty matrix, this should remain empty, and matrix with no zeros should remain also as it is unchanged. and then maybe you have the matrix where all elements are zero. This is should remain all zeros and so on. And maybe you have the matrix with only one row or one column, and maybe you have zero at the edge, first row or first column. Yeah, like this example, this is first row and so on. And yeah, maybe you have multiple zeros in the same row and columns and so on. Okay, this is also some points we need to second or next thing, we need to share our thoughts. Yeah, what are you thinking? What is the approach to solve this problem? Okay, so for examples, my intuition here, I can say, if you mark row and column to be zeroed as you find zero, you can later set them all to zero. And the challenge here is to do this is without using extra spaces. Okay, so I will scan the matrix to find all zeros. Okay, and mark the rows and the columns that needed to be zeroed. And in a second pass, I will set the marked rows and the column to zero. And yeah, I think maybe for optimized, we can use the first row and the first column as a marker to save space. This is 1 point. Yeah, if it is, yeah, I think this is my approach to solve this problem. Okay, and we can already yeah, reform this approach to code. Yeah, so I'm thinking about yeah, we can at the beginning use first row and the first column of matrix itself as a marker array to save space. And as a steps, I will check if the first row and the first column need to be zeroed. Okay, and I will use the rest of the matrix to mark zeros in the first row and the column, and zero out cells based on marker, and zero out first row column if needed. And yeah, I think here all zeros are marked and set, and no extra spaces is used except a few variables. So the complexity here will be big O m by n, and the space will be big of 1 in place only a few variables. And if it is okay, you need to get confirmation from the interviewer to starting code. Okay, so after the approach, you will need to, after the approach and the confirmation, you can starting the code, optimize techniques or brute force to establish baseline as you want. So I will check, I will already catch yeah, and catch the matrix dot size int m equal matrix dot size. Okay, this is first point, this is number of rows. So I will check this as a edge case for if the already the matrix is zeros or no. Okay, if m equal 0, at this case I will return. Okay, and then I will catch number of columns and n equal matrix of 0, matrix of 0 dot size. That is number of columns. So then I will make the flags for first row and the columns. So boolean first boolean first row 0. This one I will make it the false, and first column vertical column 0. This is also as a false. And then I will check if first row has 0. Check first row has 0. Okay, if first row has 0, so I will iterate from for int j equal 0 and j less than n and plus plus j. Okay, then I will catch and check if matrix of 0 and j, if matrix of 0 and j equal 0. So I will update the first row 0. First row 0, I will update it with true. Okay, this is first thing. Check first row has 0. Okay, so I will set the flag that indicates that the first row has 0. Okay, and then I will take this as a copy for column. So I will check first column has 0. Okay, and for yeah, maybe we can already make the variables as it is, and we can change it. Okay, and I less than m, not n, so plus I, and matrix of I 0, 0. If it is 0, okay, I will make the first column 0. Okay, and first column 0. Okay, this is 1. So now I check the first row has 0 and the first column has 0. Then I will check or use the first row and the column as a marker. Okay, so for int I equal 0 and I less than m and plus I, and again for int j equal 1, j less than n and plus j. Okay, then I will check if matrix of I and j equal 0. If anyone equal 0, I will set mark row and mark column. Okay, matrix of I 0 equal 0, and matrix here of 0 and j, this is a column marker, this is equal 0, this is mark row, this is mark column. Okay, then we can this is as a first use first row and column as a marker. Then I will set 0 based on marker. Okay, and yeah, I think this is, we can take this step first. Set 0, set 0, yes, set 0. Yeah, but set 0 is based on markers. Yeah, based on markers. Okay, and for int I equal 1. Yeah, I can take this one 3. For int I equal 1 and I less than m and plus I, then j equal 1, j less than n and plus j. Okay, this is just to one line. Okay, so I will check if the matrix of I and 0, sorry, if matrix of I and 0 equal 0, or matrix of 0 and j equal 0. So at this case we can make the matrix of I and the j as 0, semicolon. So this is set 0 based on markers. Yeah, we did it here. Okay, so we will move the 0 first row if needed. Okay, and 0 first column if needed. Okay, so I will check for the zero first row if needed. So first row zero. That is if it is true. So I will iterate for int j equals 0 and j less than n and plus plus j. So and matrix of 0 and j equals 0. Okay, and also recap it. If first column 0. Okay, so I will iterate from int I equals 0 and I less than m and plus plus I, and matrix of I and 0. I and 0 equal 0. Okay, so let's check. Yeah, before already, yeah, during the interview there is no anything to run your code, so you need to trace the code and check any bugs and so on. So here you can check your code, check if first row has 0 and check if first column has 0. Then we make the mark row and the columns. If there is any row and the column or any cell already have 0, I will already mark the row and the column. Then I will set again the column and row that have any cells have 0 and so on. So then I will check first row and the column. So let's start and run this one. Sorry. Before running the code, so let's already trace the code first. Yeah, we need to trace the code. If you had some examples like this one, 1 and 101 and 111. So at the beginning, at the step 1, we will set the first row as a false and the first column as a false. Okay, these points. And for step 2, no 0 first row. Okay, this one, no zeros here. Okay, and matrix 1 1, 0 and 1 1 1 here, 1 1 here, we have 0 here. Matrix 1 0. Okay, and matrix 0 1 will be 0. Okay, this is matrix 1 0, this is 1 and 0, this is will be 0, and matrix also 0 1, 0 1. Okay, this one. Okay, and matrix, now you can see 0 here and 0 here. This is becoming as a 0. And next step 4, you can set 0 based on markers. Matrix 1 1 equals 0, already 0, and the matrix 1 2 equal 1, and so on. You need to already to trace the code until to already finish everything. Okay, and you need also to handle edge case. If we have input as an empty, the output will be empty, no operation performance here needed. And you can also discuss some another approach during the interview, like you can use a set to store row column indices, and this uses extra spaces. And you can also starting with brute force with a copy of matrix not in place, and so on. There are a lot of alternatives, so we can now check and run the code to see the output. Let's run now the live. Okay, it's okay now, so we can submit it. It's okay now. I advise you to starting with to follow the structure approach during you during during you're starting to solving the problem and so on. Okay, so I need you to starting with understanding the problem, ask questions, and set assumptions, handle edge cases, and share your thoughts, and then starting code after your confirmation and so on. Thank you so much, and have a good day.